Phantom Abyss is a pretty challenging game all on its own, without any help. I mean, it starts off simply enough, but that difficulty curve definitely trends upwards as you cross into the caverns, and finally into the Inferno, where the mere sight of a row of desynced hammers, when you've only got half a heart of health left, usually results in a lot of cursing. After getting the Inferno Relic for the first time, I began to wonder to myself, I wonder if this could be done without the whip. I should know better than to ask these questions, because then I needed to know the answer. I'm not claiming to be the first person who has done this. In fact, I know for a fact that I'm not. But I don't like to research too much before doing these kinds of experiments, simply because I don't want to copy somebody else. I like to do it myself first, and then see if anyone else has done it. It's more fun that way. As a proof of concept, I decided to go for the lowest level relic first, and the obvious choice was the Vine Whip, because it gives you increased jump height, which of course would kind of compensate for the lack of being able to whip up to higher areas. The downside of the Vine Whip is that blow darts are instantly fatal, but there was very little risk of that in the first few floors of the dungeon, so I decided it was a good proof of concept. To ensure that I didn't accidentally snap the whip at any point, I actually changed my key bindings so that my left mouse button was no longer bound to the whip command, it was actually bound to nothing. So clicking the left mouse button actually did nothing. There was no chance of me accidentally cracking the whip, and so that's how I went about my first attempt, and I actually got the Tier 1 Relic first try doing this, which is really not that big a deal. It's the very, very easy floors of the first part of the temple, but it at least showed that this game that was designed to be played with the whip as an essential mechanic, or close to essential mechanic, could actually be played without the whip. But I was still holding a whip, of course. Now, on the Phantom Abyss wiki, I did read about something called Hand Whip, which is a glitch state you can get in if you manage to die after collecting a relic. Now, because it's a glitch, it may eventually get patched out, and in fact, it may have already been patched out. When I tried it myself, I got this message. But even if it had worked, this wouldn't be true whipless anyway, because apparently it actually allows you one whip use per floor. Definitely interesting, but not really suited for what I was doing. But what if I had no whip powers? And on top of that, what if I didn't allow myself to purchase blessings? Was that doable? Could I get that Tier 1 relic with, say, the Adventurer's Whip, which doesn't give you any special powers? Well, forget about buying blessings. I couldn't even get past the first floor. I kept encountering level geometry that was simply not possible to get past without using the whip, or having a much higher jump than normal, or possibly by exploiting bugs, although that's not my preference. I would much rather utilize intended mechanics only. Is it possible to get the Tier 1 relic like this? I think doing it without blessings is impossible, because as I realized later, even getting to the Tier 1 relic requires a very high jump. But is it possible to do a no-whip run with the Adventurer's Whip with the right blessings? I haven't completely discounted it, but I think it hinges on two very important questions. 1. Can you get a floor 1 configuration that can be traversed without using the whip or any blessings? That's of course very luck dependent, if it is even possible, and I think some exploration into how the algorithm works might be necessary. I don't know if it's completely random, or if there's certain rules in the algorithm that, require a certain amount of upward traversal or not. And 2, is it possible with the right blessings to accomplish this jump and make it up to where the relic actually sits? That's the big one. There may be other things I'm not considering, and I may revisit this in a future video. But for now, I'm going to return my attention to the Vine Whip. So the next thing I did was actually get the Caverns Relic with the Vine Whip without using the actual whip. Then I realized I'd better bless the Vine Whip. The last thing I needed was to have my Tier 3 Whipless run cut short by a poison dart to the face. Kind of like this. Or like this. Now, it took an embarrassing number of tries to actually bless the Vine Whip. I wish I had recordings of some of my epic fails. Anyway, I finally managed to bless the Vine Whip, and then I began the process of beginning my Whipless Inferno run. I have 15 recorded attempts at this. A few of them ended on the first floor of the temple, simply because there are a few rooms where the Vine Whip extra jump height just isn't enough, and since you haven't been able to buy blessings yet on the first floor, it's just a restart at that point. Most of the others ended in spectacular epic fail fashion, such as this one, where the Guardian absolutely ambushed me And then apparently I forgot how to jump. Or this one where I was doing pretty well until this happened. Or this one where I realized too late that I wouldn't be able to make the jump. And then the Guardian literally startled me to death. Or this one where I got greedy on the final floor and it resulted in me getting eaten. But finally, my Vine Whip and I set off on an adventure that would end in success, and I'm going to cut big chunks of this out because it's nearly an hour long, but if anyone wants to see the full run, I'm going to post the entire thing as an unlisted video that you'll be able to find the link to it in the description below. Also, for those who will accuse me of cheating and say I didn't actually do it, because I know how the internet works. Anyway, so one of the interesting things about, you know, doing a vineless run, you can't obviously break the vases. Are they vases or pots? Whatever you call them. If you want to get coins from vases, you have to rely on phantoms. You also have to physically touch each chest because you can't, you can't whip them from afar. Anyway, first floor is pretty standard. These were actually fairly tricky because with the high jump, you have to time your landing so that you're not landing right on the, it's easy to jump over the first blade and then land right on the second one or right in front of it and get sliced. Now, that hole in the floor there, I took a peek inside, but you had to make a judgment call because here on this, before getting any blessings, you are limited to the jump height that you have. There would be no way to get out. Also, obviously, the holes in the ceiling, the treasure holes in the ceiling, there's a lot of them I could not reach yet. Thankfully, lots of treasure chests laying around, though, that I could reach. Already at a point here where I can buy the first blessing. And of course, I've done this room so many times, I know exactly where the treasure chests are. Now, I know from experience that I can't reach this chest. But I decided to go for it anyway, just in case. Maybe I would, just hit that perfect input that would let me get across this gap, but no, I couldn't get it. You can get the other one, though. You can get the other one on the other wall here. If you leap up on top of those stone archways. You have to use the statue to get up onto the archway, and then you can get up here. So this was a good, solid start to this run, because I got a lot of coins. At 350 coins, I'm able to buy 2 blessings, at least, at the end of this first floor here. And considering there were a few chests I couldn't get to, that's a pretty good score. So, pretty easy choice there, because there's no point in really taking the whip blessings. So I got wings and double jump, which is not the best. I like getting crouch jump, because that just gives you a massive jump boost. But double jump is pretty good, and wings is pretty good as well. Lets you fly through a lot of rooms like a graceful albatross. Second floor, again, pretty standard. Poor Marcel just died right in front of me. Now, with the double jump, you can see I was kind of testing it out here to see if I thought I could, if I could make the jump out of there, but then wasn't careful enough and actually took some fall damage. Now, some of these are still pretty tricky to get into, even with the double jump. Some of them are just not possible. I'm surprised I got that one. Another one that I just wasn't able to get because trying to double jump off of this lantern, you hit the ceiling right away. Like, you just can't get much height from that first jump, and then you're using your double jump right away, and you just can't get high enough. I was very thankful to have the Masked Defiler here. My first choice for Guardian is the Masked Defiler. Second choice, the Eye of Agony. The Devouring Rage is just a real pain when you get to the Inferno, so I was glad to not have him here. I like to take a little bit of time to be able to explore my surroundings without having the red menace on my butt This room's always a fun one when you don't have a whip. Because it's random whether or not these little side chambers built into the wall are going to be there or not. And so then you just have to make a lot of calculated jumps between all these pillars. It's actually quite a lot of fun, and especially if you get this room in the Inferno where the pillars are covered in spike traps. That makes it pretty interesting. Anyway, this is one of my favorite rooms in the game. Almost bit it there, but was saved by my double jump. Alright, that's the second floor down. Was able to buy one more blessing here. And of course, now Lucky Landing I find to be pretty useless. The rare time that I do take fall damage, and then there's a 15% chance that it'll give me health instead of harm me. I almost never pick that one. But it's more useful than Long Whip when you're not using the whip. This is the downside of the Masked Defiler. When they get really aggressive in these narrow hallways, make it almost impossible for you to get through. Through experimentation, I've discovered that it'll spawn where, in the direction you're facing. So sometimes I'll turn around and face the other way. I'll face back the direction I came to make it spawn back there, and then turn around and proceed forward. It's kind of a way to game the AI a little bit. Phantom broke these pots for me here, but not the ones on the other side of the room. For shame. Lazy phantoms. Narrowly spiked in the butt, saved by the double jump. This is another fun room to do. It's not difficult by any stretch when you've got, especially with double jump and wings, but there's some fun movement to get around here and to get all the chests. So I like this room a lot. And here's some more of me trying to get into one of those ceiling chambers, and almost got it there. As you can see, just can't quite get high enough, but with this blessing, I got the crouch jump finally, so there's really nothing out of reach for me anymore. Crouch jump, the downside is it sends you shooting straight up, and you can only, you can inch sideways the tiniest little bit, but it's mostly a straight up and down jump. Alright, on to the caverns. There's not much to see here for this first little bit, just a lot of running, but it's pretty standard. But here, you can see, of course, where the crouch jump now comes in handy. So I'll be able to pick up a lot more treasure as I go. This part is a lot less scary now that I've blessed the Vine Whip. And the darts are no longer an instant kill. I did do this a few times even without my Vine Whip blessed, because I just can't resist the allure of that treasure, but I have been hit by the darts there before, so it was a risky play. But it's another fun room. I really like that one. This one, jump to the center pillar, jump across, no problem. Nothing going on here. It's been a pretty chill run so far. Floor 1 of the caverns, no problem. Hover Slide is not the most useful blessing, but it does have its uses. And if I'm not mistaken, I actually stopped buying blessings after this to save up for basically later on in the run if I needed healing. I wanted to maximize my chances that I'd be able to buy healing later. Say I got something like Long Whip and Big Heal offered to me right now. I only have half a heart of damage, so I didn't want to be put in that position where I'd either get a choice between a blessing that's completely useless or one that's mostly useless, and then waste the Big Heal, say, for... actually, what I would probably do is I take Long Whip, in that case, and save the Big Heal for hopefully having it offered to me again later when I need it. Going to be cutting a lot of this floor out because it's a pretty standard caverns run, actually. But in a lot of ways, the caverns is actually easier than the first part of the dungeon. Usually, you'll have the blessings, or have quite a few blessings by this point. And so with all of the movement tech, it's pretty easy to traverse a lot of these rooms, whereas earlier on, when I only had double jump, and wings, you had to be a little more creative in getting across some of the obstacles. And that was a very shiny spot. Oh, the hammers. Oh, man. Hammers are the bane of my existence, and if I'm not mistaken, yep. Those long rows of hammers there, and it ate my double jump. I don't know if anyone else has this issue. Let me know in the comments, but I find that sometimes it'll register that I've hit the jump button twice in quick succession, and so it'll use my double jump right away. So it like eats my first jump, and I go right into the second jump. That was just embarrassing. Blade to the face. So I'm hoping to get some healing from this shrine. Not exactly what I was hoping for. Okay, done the caverns. And not enough money to buy a blessing, so we're onto the Inferno with half health. Which is actually not all that bad. I've gotten to this point with only 1 health before. That was grateful. 2.5 health. If you don't take any fall damage, you can sustain 2 solid hits and still stay alive. First floor of the Inferno. And this is always fun here to see which obstacle that the game puts in the way of the chests in this first room, and of course it's hammers. This is exactly where I died on a previous run. So I was very careful to make sure that I could utilize my double jump properly. Got both of the chests, no problem. But that's the easy part. Inferno has... the Inferno's hard enough with a whip. Doing it like this can be a little bit insane, and especially with the masked defiler. And I know I said earlier that the masked defiler is my preference, and he is because he's just one of the easier ones to avoid in a lot of circumstances. But if you do get stuck in the poison cloud, you don't have the whip to do a quick escape, and the poison cloud actually it slows down your movement speed quite significantly. So you can jump, you could do a crouch jump or something, up into fresh air, but then you're just going to land back in the poison again. And of course, if you have a low ceiling, then that doesn't help. So he does bring his share of challenges, that's for sure. Plus, he likes to spawn right in front of you. Or, you know, right in the little chest alcove where you need to go. Like that, so... I suppose I don't need to go there, but I really want to go there, so I'm going back for it. Guess what? This is one of the fun parts of having wings. You can just fly across these big rooms, no issues, and of course then, you know, you could fly right past the masked defiler. As long as you don't touch him, because then you do take damage, but you could, like, fly right in his face. And he can be attacking you, and you're not going to take any damage. Whereas, like, the Eye of Agony, well, it is fairly easy to avoid the Eye of Agony's attack. It just takes one misstep, one mistake, one instance of not knowing exactly where he is or where he's aiming, and you can take damage easily. I hate these. You can see that the timing was very, very tight as far as getting from one patch of floor spikes to the next patch of floor spikes without getting hit. As soon as the spikes start going down, they're safe to touch. Like, the second they start retracting, and I basically had no choice but to go while they were still retracting. If I had stepped, like, a split second sooner, I would have taken damage. And if I had waited a split second longer, would have taken damage. That's a very tricky part of the hallway. That area looked daunting, but it was actually pretty easy with all of those firing off in sequence like that. It's when they're all firing off randomly, that's when it's really, really dangerous, especially if you have like dart statues firing at you at the same time. And there are places like that in the Inferno. And then my old friends, the desynced hammers. And then, of course, and then they give me the conveyor belt, so I did take a hit there, just because I didn't quite get ahead of it. Alright, end of the floor, and, I mean, it gave me some great options there, so I got to spend 500 gold on what was essentially a useless blessing. Alright. Decided to get greedy here. I was like, I want all of these chests, because I really wanted some healing. Actually, I was kind of going for broke here. I figured it was definitely worth the risk at this point to get the extra money so that I could buy the big heal if it was available to me, and greatly increase my chances of surviving the last part of the Inferno. So I went for it and paid off this time. Of course, it's a lot different than descending a spiral staircase, borrowing rage on your butt, but I digress. Climbing this pyramid thing is not too bad. You have to be careful rounding the corners that you don't step out too far, or you can get hit in the face with the giant balls, and nobody likes that. Even the dart statues aren't really much of a hazard here. This used to be my least favorite room in the entire game, until I realized just jump on that center pillar and then across to the other corner, and you don't even have to worry about what traps are along the edges of the room. So not enough to buy that blessing yet, so I just had to approach this very, very carefully. I do buy a blessing later on here in the Relic room from this shrine that they give you here. Back in this room again. Decided to play it a little safer this time. Just grabbed the FAR 2 and booked it out of there. So it was pretty short trek actually to get to this first lantern. Brazier. Whatever it's called. I had enough to buy a blessing though, so filled with hope in my heart, I ran up to the shrine. And I got one heal, so I mean, better than nothing. And I knew at this point that was probably it, that there would probably be no more blessings in this run. So 2.5 health is what I had, 2.5 health to make use of. And that's 3 solid hits, actually. Or, well, you could take 2 hits and still have half a heart left. So, again, unless you get some fall damage in there as well, it's very similar to just having a full 3 hearts of health. Second torch chamber, also a very short trek, so the game was being really nice to me here. Third chamber was not too bad until I got to this point, where the Guardian decided to appear and really start to get really annoying. Some of these rooms are not so bad until you start throwing poison clouds in, so here I did what I mentioned earlier. I like inched my way back into that room to bait him into spawning over there, and then and came through here. Fourth chamber. Here's another one of these patches of desynced spikes. I'm amazed that I got through that without taking any damage. And I guess I was still looking for treasure at this point, although there was really no... Actually, I think I came in here mostly to get the key, because there's a large chest up here to get the epic key, and there was really no chance of me getting enough for another blessing, but my roll was a little off. Rolled it right into those spikes, and and I did take 1 heart of damage. But that was the 4th lantern. Basically, the relic's in your hand at this point, as long as you don't do something really dumb. And I did decide to do something a little bit dumb at this point. I like the statue puking lava there. I wasn't sure where the chests had moved to. In a recent update, they moved the chests around in this room. They said they made them harder to obtain. So I decided to look for them. Because I'm a genius. And at the last minute decided not to attempt that jump there, which is smart, because I went back and tried it later, and it just kills you if you try to jump over there. So that was a wise move. And I got the most epic relic of them all, the cardboard box. So I add that to my collection, and that's that. That's my whipless run. So now I guess all that's left is to bless the rest of my whips and then wait for future updates. So yeah, if anyone from the dev team happens to be watching this, a fantastic game. Absolutely love it. Keep it up. Keep up the great work. Looking forward to updates and seeing what else you've got planned for this game. And those of you who sat through this, I hope you found it interesting. Hope you found it fun. Please do slam that like button if you did appreciate it. And also leave comments below, especially if you have any other ideas for fun challenges or alternative ways to play this game. I'm curious to see what other forms of emergent gameplay are going to come out of this. But that's it. I'm going to end it there. Thank you so much for watching, and I will talk to you again very soon. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, sub, and hit that notification bell, and then check out some of these other videos. Find the link to our Discord server and other important stuff in the description below.